Hi. For this week's video, I would like to answer the question about the cost corruption creates in my community. So, here it goes. Uh, a cost a cost of corruption that wasn't as mentioned in this week's material is the detrimental effect it has on the image of the country, both from people from the inside and from people on the outside. In my country, particularly Mexico, it has slowly grown to become an important part of how things work in politics and business, in education, and in almost every aspect of society. It is really hard to find a politician that is not involved in corruption allegations that can go from bribery to nepotism to illicit enrichment, collusion, and more. This has had a huge impact on how society sees those who are in power, how much they trust laws, and how much they respect authority. A survey done by the government in 2012 called National Survey on Political Culture and Citizen Practices tries to get a picture of how Mexicans feel about certain public issues, and according to the results from 2012, corruption is present in most of everyday activities and it has affected how institutions are perceived. When asked if citizens are the ones who allow corruption to happen, 69% of the respondents agree in some extent. And when asked to rate how much corruption they believe happens in the country, with 0 being no corruption and 5 being total corruption, 71.44% of the respondents said 5, and it adds up to 88% when 4 and 5 are put together. What is even more shocking is that when they were asked how possible it is to end corruption, 37.35% answered it was unlikely, and 18.86% said it was impossible. Besides, political institutions are not trusted, and people don't believe that the law is for their benefit. With these results, it's possible to see just how much corruption is practiced every day even when they are not openly admitting to participating in corrupt acts, they see it as an essential part of the country. Another remarkable question is the one where they ask respondents to choose between economic growth and democracy, and 49.93% answered that economic growth was preferable. This can be linked to what Nathaniel Leff said in his article about economic development through bureaucratic corruption, when he says that the condemnation of corruption is an obstacle to growth. What people are implying in this particular answer is that economic growth should be sought as a priority. How it, how it is achieved is not as important. However, according to Susan Rose Ackerman, corruption is not valid even for short-term measures because once it has started, it is difficult to control and to contain. If Mexicans are agreeing that corruption is a problem and that economic growth is a goal, what should be done, in my opinion, is to try to find a way to make clear the link between these two variables. Perhaps if we know exactly how corruption affects growth, we'd be able to see them as part of the same problem and not as two separate issues. Corruption has also taken its toll on how authorities are perceived. They are not trusted, and even policies that have the intention of benefiting society are seen as suspicious, and that they are most definitely an excuse to launder money or to redirect the money towards a private gain. Without legitimacy, there is not much a government can do that would truly be effective. Corruption is self-perpetuating. Corruption in the government leads to a lack of trust in the institution, which in turn makes them ineffective and ends up being an excuse to engage in corrupt actions. But saying that corruption is a part of the Mexican culture is not a valid and a sufficient reason to allow that it continue. The most surprising thing I learned this week is the fact that corruption can grow so much that it ends up being a direct threat to people's security. Marianne Bertrand's article on corruption and unsafe drivers really impressed me because I had never realized just how much it can impact society. This should work as an irrefutable argument against those who believe that corruption can help grease the wheels of the economy. There is really no way to control or to predict just how much corruption will grow and or how it will evolve. Uh, uh, and allowing just the right amount of corruption seems like an unrealistic assumption on our part.